We're coming home, coming home. That's right, back to DC. The Washington Commanders are bound. We got all your stadium information right here on Ref the District. Let's go. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here, and exciting news that dropped Sunday evening. They were going to announce the new stadium in DC at the RFK site on Monday. We've got all your information right here. Our freshest tape. We're recording this Monday, just an hour or two after that conference. We've got all the information. Just make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that you're subbed up on the channel. Make sure you share this so other people can share their thoughts as well. And then don't forget, join us on Wednesdays, 7:30 Eastern, where your voice can be heard right there with us as we stream live and talk about all things Washington Commanders. Stoner, horrible job singing that song in the beginning for me, but it's true. Washington football is coming back to DC.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. It's not necessarily a big top secret thing that happened. It's been rumored for a while, and the information has been out there. Muriel Bowser has even been talking about it. But yeah, she leaked it with the little video and such with Joe Theismann narrated, which was pretty cool. And it's just talking about DC, the Commanders are coming home to DC. And it's about time because they're the Washington Commanders. We're not the Maryland Commanders. We're not the Virginia Commanders. They're the Washington Commanders. And they should play in DC just like they did all the way up until the late 90s when they moved out to Landover, Maryland. So the announcement was pretty awesome. The press conference was awesome. Roger Goodell was there, of course, and the mayor, Josh Harris, some luminaries from the Redskins organization, like Joe Gibbs, of course, Doug Williams, John Riggins was there. John Riggins seems to be back in the fold there with the new ownership. So, I mean, just a really, really cool thing. And to announce that the stadium deal has been reached, I mean, just a lot of good feelings and good vibes going on between the Commanders and the fans in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, really good things here. And right about the timeline that we were kind of looking at, we said, 2031, it was my personal prediction that we were going to see a new stadium. We're actually going to see it potentially a little bit earlier, assuming all things go as planned. The projected timeline right now for the return to DC, summer 2025, council's going to do their approval. The summer, hope. They still have to do that. That's still a hurdle, technically.
That's the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, summer, fall in 2025, planning commences for the parks, housing, and recreation. We got more details on that. And the fall, winter of 26, the groundbreaking for the stadium begins. Early 29, the Plaza District groundbreaking happens. 2030, the Sportsplex ribbon cutting. So that's when they're planning opening that. And in the fall of 2030 will be the stadium opening, assuming everything goes as planned.
Yep.
So pretty good timeline for you. I mean, you mentioned there one little bit of a hiccup there. It still has to technically get approved, but it seems like everybody's on board.
Yeah, and you hope that it's just a formality. I mean, look, when they brought the Nats back into DC to build that stadium, because they were playing at RFK coincidentally, when they first got into Washington, and then when they built the stadium in there, the city council was totally against it, and they passed it 7-6. So there's 13 members of the city council. Interesting to note, at the press conference today, there were 4 council members there. So it's not like they have overwhelming support from the city. They'll get there at some point. Because look, the president wasn't even going to have it in his budget to allow for this until the NFL got involved. And when you get Roger Goodell involved in this, not just Josh Harris, but you get Roger Goodell involved in this, you're going to get some things moved along. It's all politics. They got to get what they're going to get out of the deal as well. So it's just a matter of time before they eventually approve it. It's not going to be smooth sailing. It's going to happen at some point.
Yeah. One of the big things and biggest kind of selling points for the government and DC residents is the percentage that they're putting into the development, the costs.
Yeah.
coming in at 24% for this particular development plan. Comparatively, so you kind of have an idea of where it fits. Tennessee new stadium coming out in 2027, 60% of that was funded by the public,
Yeah.
50% for Jacksonville's, 49 for Buffalo's,
Mhm.
67 for New Orleans, 37 for Las Vegas. So Washington D.C., the new stadium there is publicly not being only a quarter of it's being funded publicly.
Yeah, and that's a big deal because you're talking about a $3.7 billion stadium that they've made a deal for. The Commanders are coming up with $2.7 billion to finance it. And then, as you said, DC has to come up with 24% of that, which is about $1.1 billion.
Mhm.
That's what's coming from the taxpayers. Let me be upfront and honest with you right now. That $2.7 billion that Josh Harris is putting up, we're paying for that. Now, the taxpayers are not paying for that. And when
Yeah.
I say we're paying for that with, we'll talk about this in a second, but for PSLs, with food costs, with parking, with whatever, you're going to pay, somebody's going to pay for it. But Josh Harris is going to front the money. He's going to get the money back as the stadium is there and as it starts earning revenue. But it's going to eventually come out of the fans' pockets. It's
Sure.
not going to come out of the DC taxpayers, though, which I like. And I know you like. You don't want the lady who's just living down the street to have to pay extra taxes for a stadium she's not going to have anything to do with. That's not
Mhm.
fair to her. And she's not going to reap any of the tax rewards either, most likely.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. At $3.7 billion, Josh Harris is putting up front 2.7 billion of his own money, or the group's money, not just
Sure.
his own money. That's a really, really big deal.
Yeah, it's I don't. These guys are worth billions of dollars. Why
Mhm.
why would we fund theirs? Now,
Sure.
the reason why there's some public funding that goes into this is because it's not going to be just the stadium, and we're going to go into a little bit more of what's going to be around the stadium. But I just want to
Mhm.
give some more numbers and aspects to the 2.7 billion the Commanders putting up. That's for vertical construction. Okay. It
Mhm.
is the single largest private investment in the district's history.
That's big.
The district is responsible for $500 million for horizontal construction. 181 million is going to be coming from the events DC for parking. And then by fiscal year 2032, 175 million that will be generated by stadium activity is going to be reinvested primarily in the parking. That's revenue bonds and stuff like that. Now,
Mhm.
part of that is interesting is, again, you're transforming that area. DC has some recent experience with a transformation project on riverfront, and that's the
Mhm.
Capitol Riverfront that they did for Nationals Park in 2008.
Mhm.
Okay, that was heavily funded by DC, but they were actually on track to pay the construction bonds off in 2026. It's 10 years ahead of schedule
Yeah.
with what's coming around in Nationals Park. And that's a similar type investment that we're seeing being put into this area and the RFK area, where it's not going to be just a stadium. It's
Right.
going to be housing. It's going to be activities. It's going to be bars and shops.
Yep.
I'm pretty excited that we're going to have an opportunity to be back there and have more of an experience around the stadium.
If it's done right, it's going to benefit a lot of people. It's going to benefit the billionaires the most. Let's not kind
Sure.
of
Yeah. They're
hide
doing
that.
this for money. Sure.
Right. They're doing this for money. They're going to benefit the most, but it is going to benefit everybody. It's going to be expensive, and it's going to price some of the common fans out. That's just kind of what happens as you get newer and you develop. That's I don't know that's economics 101. You develop things and they become more expensive, and then people make money off of this.
Mhm.
And there's retail, as you said. This is going to be right now it's a 65,000 seat stadium, which is, I mean, perfect. Would you like it a little bit smaller? Yes. But in terms of being able to do other things with that stadium, you do need it a little bit bigger. So 65,000 seats, you're going to have 8,000 parking spots. And so you are going to have a tailgating area.
They
It's not going to
specifically
be like,
mentioned that there will be
yeah,
there will be space for tailgating.
and that's big because tailgating is a big part of the Washington football culture. So it's not like other places who don't have it where it's not part of their culture, and so they don't care. This one it will. It's going to have, they say it's going to have a world-class ride share facilities there. Now, who knows what that's going to look like in 5 years? I mean, by then you may have robots picking you up or flying saucers or whatever taking you around. We'll see at that point in 5 years. But 65,000 multi-event stadium, meaning you're going to be able to have concerts in there. So you're talking about up to 10 football games, 10 concerts, 100 private events, all that good stuff. And all that does, again, is make money to be able to pay off all of the bonds and all these other things that it takes to build these stadiums. And it's going to help the people around in that area. It's going to displace some people, I'm sure, but it's going to be a world-class stadium. Josh Harris said, without exaggeration, this is a quote, without exaggeration, this will be the best stadium in the country when it's built. And I totally believe that it will be. And some of the renderings that they have look amazing. You don't know if it's going to be exactly like that when it's finished, but you're talking about 6 levels. You're talking about a glass roof. They haven't specifically said how the roof is going to be, but it's going to be roofed.
It's domed.
Right?
100% is domed.
Yeah.
Right now, they haven't announced whether or not it's retractable. Those have been going out of favor, by the way. I don't. Yeah, I don't see that happening. The translucent way is what's kind of in vogue right now.
Right.
Where you can see the outside, but it is domed, so that way you can still house things during winter or inclement weather. I mean, they want to be able to host the Super Bowl. They want to be able to host, big concerts and bring people to DC year round. Like you said, 10 non-football events. I think they're actually looking at 200 times that the stadium's going to be used a year to attract a lot of people and bring in some economic boom to the DC area. And so I know that part hurts for a lot of people, Stoner, the football fans, the diehards who they want that snowy weather. They want those weather games and everything like that. It's just the way that the football's going, the NFL is going, though. So I'm not as held to it. Where do you stand on the dome versus open air? Because the Bills fought real hard to get an open air stadium up there in Buffalo.
Well, the people up in Buffalo are a bunch of crazy people. I don't know. And that kind of works for them, but I don't think you necessarily have to have an outdoor stadium. I'm fine with the dome stadium. I'm fine with being able to go watch a game in 72-degree weather in the middle of December in a playoff game. We don't necessarily need them. I mean, Jaden Daniels doesn't necessarily like the snow, so build the stadium for him, right? But yeah, as far in terms of dome or not, it doesn't matter to me, but they're definitely going to have a dome because you need that in this area if you're going to host a Super Bowl, right? So, and they want to host a Super Bowl. Roger Goodell was there today and he said, I'm not here to announce that the Super Bowl is coming to DC, but this helps.
Yeah, this it dramatically increases the chances that Washington, D.C. will get a Super Bowl.
That's a big deal. You bring the Super Bowl here, you bring the draft here, you've now generated over $1 billion worth of revenue for the area, and you've essentially paid off, again, whatever it takes to build this stuff, and and you're clean again. And Josh Harris said specifically, look, I understand that some people are going to be priced out of this a little bit, but we're going to try our best not to do that. I believe him because Josh Harris so far in the 2 years that he's been here has everything that he said he's followed through with. And he has not proven to be a guy who just says things in order to swindle people.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these other owners have been known to do, i.e. the guy before him. So I trust him when he says we're going to try and keep it to where we're not going to price out the common fan.
Yeah, including the PSLs. He mentioned we're going to have the private seat license. Yep. So that's going to happen. Start saving your money now.
Explain what a private seat license is,
so
Nathan.
so if you're a season ticket holder, that's just not good enough anymore. Okay.
Yeah,
Now you need to fork over some other money to actually have the right to that seat, in
Right.
addition to buying your tickets
Yep.
to get it. But the private seat license, what's kind of different about that compared to just your season ticket holding is, as we mentioned, this is going to be a multi-event, stadium. And so you own, with quotations, that seat.
That's
So
right.
it kind of gives you a leg up for all of those events. But you are funding. That's where part of the cost comes into the new stadiums. And Josh Harris talks about that. But he wants kind of a multi-area. He wants to fill all 65,000 seats with people. So
he will.
do expect, that first game is going to be just absolutely fantastic. I'm saving money now. But he mentioned it, like you said, he knows that he wants families who might not be able to afford season tickets, or maybe even your higher end PSLs, to be able to still come and see the team, still be a part of this, still maybe even purchase a private seat license, maybe on that upper deck, as you mentioned, how many levels are there. So they're looking at that. It's going to be pricey, but he wants, maybe there'll be some kind of payment plan or something like that. All that stuff is still to come, as far as things on that one. But I do like that he outwardly mentioned that aspect, and he kind of gave a scenario very politically, right? He's, talked about that mom and the grocery shopping and everything like this, being able to afford, something like this at the new stadium.
One of the things that is a mantra with this show, that when we are talking about the Commanders or anybody really, is we always say, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And so far, everything that Josh Harris has said, he has done. So you have to take his word for him. You have to take him at his word that when he says we're going to do things to not price out the common person, I actually believe him. I believe a billionaire NFL owner, and I'm not used to that. I'm not used to believing billionaires or sports owners, because they always seem to just want to be making that extra buck. And of course, he's going to want to make his money. He's not doing it to be benevolent to everybody and just spend all his money. But I believe him when he says that, because everything that he said so far, he has not stumbled, not a single time since he has owned this team. He has not stumbled once in doing what he says he's going to do.
Yep. And I don't know what affordable is going to look like.
Yeah, that's a relative term.
Yeah,
right?
It's relative, and especially when you're talking about a billionaire who part of his ownership group can put up $2.7 billion. What is affordable to them is very different than what's affordable to you or I. So I still want to see that aspect, but I do believe that they are looking at ways to at least have varying levels of it, right? Maybe your dream seats, as they're called right now at Northwest Stadium, the ones that line the stadium, maybe those PSLs are going to be, way out of our price range, and maybe out of the price range for the people currently sitting in those seats, right? But then maybe in the upper deck, which, by the way, in Northwest Stadium, if you're up on the 400 level, but you're at the 50-yard line, those are some darn good seats. I'm just going to let you know that, and you can get those for like a third of the price as the lower bowl. Lower bowl's awesome. Club level, great. But like, if you have to go sit up top, if you can get in the 50-yard line, you're golden. That's a fantastic seat. But maybe something like that for fans of the new stadium at RFK. There's something up there at a price point where it is affordable to a family, that they can at least get, one seat purchased type deal. And then that way they can figure out what they're going to do. But a lot of that stuff's to come. I want to shift to kind of the area, Stoner, because we talked about the 65,000 domed stadium, 8,000 parking with some tailgating experience. But I mean, this is a busy area. You're going to have foot traffic. You're going to have people going in there through the metro, potentially by waterfront as well. This is the plan currently. They're going to have a plaza district. It's going to be the stadium, entertainment district, festival plaza, housing, hotels, retail, restaurants, all right there. Okay.
Yeah.
The stadium district, that's specifically the stadium, the new home of the Washington Commanders. So you got the stadium right outside of it. You got the plaza district, all the retail, restaurants, bar hopping. Again, kind of picture Nats Park, if you will, if you've been there. You can take the metro, you'll walk past a bunch of bars and restaurants and houses and stuff, and then you're right there at the stadium. Okay. Yep. That's kind of the feel that they're going for. Then you have the riverfront district. That's the waterfront community. It's going to be money. That's more housing, retail, and restaurants. Those are all Washington labeled, Commanders labeled. Okay. DC labeled. You have the Kingman Park District, housing, recreation, community. That's right now where the fields are. If you're familiar with the RFK area, they've got like some community soccer fields and stuff like that. Recreation hub centered around the fields. Okay, so recreation district is where the fields are. So the Kingman Park District is just outside that. Recreation hub, recreation district is around the fields at the current RFK site with the state-of-art sportsplex. So expect a sportsplex coming to the DC area. And then you have what they're calling the Anacostia Commons, a 30-acre stretch of the riverfront community commons anchored by the Anacostia River Trail. That area is so close to the stadium, imagine not just tailgating, but boat gating.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, listen, Nathan, we've come such a long way in these last 2 years with this organization. Think of where we were just a couple of years ago, or think of where we were when we started this podcast 4 years ago, in the just complete disarray of an organization. And we've now come to the point now where everything is just on this upward trend, and not just with the organization, but of course the play on the field. We've gone from what was just a horrible situation to having new owners, a new stadium upcoming, a new front office, a new coaching staff, the franchise quarterback, all people that we trust and we believe in. And it's so, I don't really know how to explain it. We're just so proud of what this organization has become. And it's been 2 years. It's happened all in the last 2 years. What they have done, what this organization has done in the last 2 years, that the previous ownership group tried to do for 20 plus years and couldn't do it. And this organization has completely done a 180 in every aspect. The business side, the public relations side, the football side, the most important side, all of that. And it's now we take pride in being a member or being a fan of this organization. It's just remarkable what they've done.
Yeah, winning on the field, the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I do feel that's kind of leading the way. That's gonna help ease things, right? Things are a lot happier when you're a winning product, when you can sell and make money and everything like that. This has been working for even previously before the Harris ownership group. Now, I'm going to get some flack for this. I understand that I'm going to get some hate, but there was some groundwork and some political deals being worked before the Harris ownership group took over. Jason Wright trying to do political. Nobody wanted to work with the former guy.
No, did not.
Right? Nobody wanted to work with him. So that was a non-starter. I mean, DC said no. Virginia started coming up with plans and then they pulled back and said no.
Right.
Maryland was willing to kind of play ball just to keep them in there, but it was not ever set in stone. So the Harris ownership group deserves all the accolades, all the love of being able to take a broken product and making it work, making it something sellable, making it what we're seeing today,
Yeah.
and they deserve all that. But I do want to point out that, for the last 10 years or so, this has been something that has been a focus of the team and the franchise, and something that they've been trying to work. They were unsuccessful for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But a lot of that framework was there when Harris Ownership Group took over, and they did remove a lot of the previous people who were working on that. They brought in their own people, and they're like, okay, listen, we're not the old people, we're the new people.
Yeah.
Let's take this framework, let's mold it a little bit to be beneficial to you. Let's get it back in DC. And they made that happen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting also to see what they do, sort of how they name it, right? Because, I mean, look, RFK had its own. RFK was a dump, let's be honest. It was not a great stadium in itself, but that's what made it advantageous to the home team, to the Washington Redskins, is when you had the stands actually bouncing and you were right on top of the team. You're not going to have that. You're going to have a state-of-the-art facility that's going to be great for a fan experience, but it's not necessarily going to be like that. So it'll be interesting sort of what they name it. I don't think they're going to name it RFK. Maybe it's going to be Northwest Stadium at RFK or something like that. If they keep the RFK name, who knows? It's going to be interesting to see. But they're not changing the name. He reiterated again today. The name's not changing. They are where they are. Some people find that nebulous when he says that, but every time they ask, he says, we're not changing the name. That's not changing. And then one other note, Nathan, I want to add in there is that the practice facilities are staying in Ashburn. The team, of course, is going to be there in DC. Their headquarters are in Maryland. So they're still going to have the entire DMV feel to it. They're not moving their practice facilities out of Ashburn, and they're not moving their headquarters. So you're still going to have that as part of it. But the stadium being back in DC at the old RFK site, it just feels like that's where they're supposed to be. That is kind of like they are coming home to where they're meant to be. That's where the glory years were. And I think it's just great for everybody. And there shouldn't be anybody who has a problem with it other than people, who just, are just negative Nellies. And that's not me. Right? Not
You're
this
typically
time
the
anyway.
negative one.
Yeah,
But
not today.
there's you're never going to make everybody happy. There are going to be some people who don't want it to be publicly funded at all. I'm happy that the bulk of it is going to be paid through the billionaires, or through us, through the billionaires, how that ends up working out, rather than taxpayer money. I'm okay with taxpayer money going to the development of that area, because that's an enrichment for those taxpayers, right? Eventually they should be seeing a return of investment on those taxes. And that to me is a positive. That is one of those things. Like, I wanted to point out the Nationals Park and how that actually has been a boon for the DC area and successful. And if we can match that with the RFK area, it'll be great. I think it'll be good for the community. I think it's going to be great for DMV. I'd like that they're trying to go for that DMV feel, where you got Stadium DC, you got team offices in Maryland, and you've got team facilities out there in Ashburn. Still work on those team facilities in Ashburn. Get it so that way it's a lot better for the players and the fan experience. I love that it's a DMV team.
Rumor has it that there are some, even again this upcoming training camp, a lot of upgrades to the facility in Ashburn for training camp, that for fans and the players. So it'd be interesting to see what they did there.
Well, we'll talk more about that on Wednesday, especially because players have entered the building and are starting their workouts at team facilities. Brian Robinson calling out the team media, by the way, because they had a kind of an intro thing. It was like, okay, what do you think about your first day coming back? And he's like, no, this is the first day y'all seeing us, not our first day that we've been working out. All that's going to be talked about on our Wednesday show, 7:30 Eastern. Make sure you join us on Wednesday live here on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button, especially if you like the news coming out of DC, and ask your questions, comment, let us know what you think about going back to RFK. Is it going to be RFK named? We'll talk more about that as well. on Wednesday. We appreciate you joining in. Make sure you share it with your friends. I'm Nathan. That's the Stoner here for Ref the District. And until next time,
They're coming home. They're coming home. Better singer.
be a fan.